I have to change headphones here in order to talk. Can everybody hear me now? Just wave at me. Okay, beautiful. I see some familiar faces. Good to see you here. Uh, the doctor's here. Pascual is here. Yasuyu's here. Anyway, welcome. My name is Viktor Rendon, in case you don't know me personally. And we're here at the New Rican Porch Cafe, actually in my studio practice room, but officially as the New Rican. And I just realized today that it's been a year, March the 10th, exactly 1 year ago, that I went to play at the New Rican with my big band. And it was already up in the air that there was a virus in the city and that we might get closed down. The next day, we did our gig and we were careful. We were not shaking hands by then. We were doing this or this. And the next day, I was supposed to do a percussive recital. Actually, that was on Thursday. I went there on Wednesday, and we weren't sure whether we could play or not. And everybody was like looking at each other. What are we gonna do? So I waited until the higher ups told me what to do. So, and that was it. Everything got shut down before you know it. So it's been a year, and thank God we're still alive, and I'm happy to be here, and I hope I can give you something that you can take with you. And if I give you one little thing, I'll be happy today. And what I'm gonna do today is gonna be like a little review of the very first workshop. I didn't think it was gonna go this long. So here we are again, but I think this is like a seventh or eighth one. And I'm not gonna talk about timbale fills, building your vocabulary, and building your vocabulary is like a language. When you're a baby, you say "dada" and everybody goes "whoa," and, and then you say "mama" and everybody goes "wow." They encourage you. So it's the same thing with a musical instrument. You learn something; it might not sound so good in the beginning, but if you get feedback and encouragement from your environment, you will develop. And it starts by listening. That's what you did when you were a baby. You were listening. Maybe you weren't talking the language, but you were absorbing what you were hearing from your parents, from the rest of the family, the environment, and then little by little you make one syllable, ma or pa, and then you make two syllables, mama, papa, or whatever, and eventually that formed into words. Eventually that formed into sentences, and eventually that formed into extended vocabulary. So, how do you do that with music? Well, listen to music. Very simple. Uh, I don't listen to as much music nowadays as I want to, but I still make it a point to listen to some type of music almost every day. Uh, a lot of times it's in my car because that's when I can go anywhere. I'm in my car for 30, 40 minutes. I'm going to Manhattan, Queens, or Brooklyn. So I put on a CD or I listen to something on iTunes, That's where I get, uh, I listen to something that I haven't heard in a long time or something new. Like, for instance, a couple of weeks ago, Chick Corea passed away. So I put some of those CDs in my car and I listened to them. Johnny Pacheco passed away. So what did I do? I went back and listened to some of those Johnny Pacheco records. So it keeps me on top of the game. I get to review some of the vocabulary that I know, and I get to hear new licks. Every time you hear something, uh, you hear something. Even you, just when I think I know it all, I hear something. It might be. It doesn't even have to be anything difficult. It might be I'm playing. That sounds nice, and it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Just some little nuance, some little sound. So that's basically it. As far as listening to music, just listen to music, get and listen to different styles of music. Don't just listen to Latino stuff. Listen to jazz. Listen to country and western. Listen to rock and roll. I listen to it all. I'm not prejudiced. If it's music, and you can get something from it just by listening to different styles of music. Classical music, in particular, I played it, a lot of it, and I listened to it. I played when I lived in Texas. I played Tex-Mex gigs. I played country and western. Played a lot of rock and roll, jazz and everything. So it just keeps on going. So anyway, uh, getting. I want to start by getting sounds from the instrument. So if you're on the timbales and you're thinking about building your vocabulary, throwing licks on the timbales, think about what's in front of you first and what you can get out of it. For instance, if I have two timbales here, I'm gonna go for the high drum. That's an open tone. A lot of things I can do with that open tone. That's one source. The next obvious one will be the low tone. The next obvious thing will be to combine and get different tones out of these two drums. Well, even a baby can do that. Nothing difficult about that. But what about taking those same drums and muffling it? That's another source of vocabulary. I'll also put my shoulder. What about rim shots? I can get a funky one on the low drum. See, it sounds different. Now, rim shots take some practice because the key is to hit the rim and the head at the same time from about maybe what is it, a couple of inches or so. Do not hit it from here. That's like a snare drum rim shot, like on the drum set. So if you hit it this way, you get like a more thuddy sound. You can go for that sound if you want it, but if you want a good rim shot, like for an abanico, you want to hit it from the edge. One time I yelled at a drummer who was playing on the land band at Lehman College, and he was doing this. And I freaked out. I said, "You're playing like a drummer." And he said, "I am a drummer." But he was a drummer. But in timbales, it's from the edge. Okay, now, okay, I forgot one thing. What about buzzes? I can just drop the sticks. Again, anybody can do that. I can open, and this takes more technique. Open rolls, more rudimento. Okay, so now, those are my sound sources. Oh, wow, I forgot. What about the bell? This is the bigger bell, mumble bell. Cajita China, which is now the jam block. Also her the rim and the sides of the timbal. Also have my cymbal. I can hit the cymbal in different parts of the cymbal. If I hit it at the edge, it gets more resonant. It gets more focused if I go into the bell until I get to the top of the bell. Alright, now I'm going to take all those sounds. I'm not even going to think about what I'm doing. I'm just going to hit anything that comes from me. It's going to be arbitrary. I didn't think about that, so those are just plain different sounds from the timbal. But now, you're playing in a band, and you're told to play fills. Let's say you're playing 8 bars, and then on the one of the ninth bar, you have to hit that quarter note, pow, with the horns. It might be the trumpets, it might be the seconds, or it might be the whole thing, tutti. Tutti means that everybody's playing that note at the same time. So, how do I get the band from A to B? I could do this. I'm going to count it out and not play any field. 1, 2, 3, that could sound nice, especially if there's a line before that hit. If there's a da, if there's something there as a rule, I don't play hardly anything because I don't want to obstruct the sound of the horns or the effect of the horns. But let's say there's space there. So one of the easiest fills to do is to do this. And four. So I'm gonna do that. That's probably I use that a lot. It's one of the easiest fills to do. It's very effective because it gets the band from A to B. Uh, by that I mean I'm directing the time to them. I'm letting them know that here it is, guys. Boom, now play, boom. Okay, now I'm gonna do that. 8 bars of time, and then I'm gonna hit the one. 1, 2, ready, go. It's perfect because it's very clear, it's very concise. Play. But let's say, okay, I did that already like 3 or 4 times, and now I need to do something different. Or maybe the band leader says, or maybe the producer, if I'm doing a record, tells me, Victor, fill it up. I want to hear more. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Now I'm going to add a typical lick, which is the same, but I'm going to put what's called a drag in front of it. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm just adding one little drag in front of it, but it's still basically the same riff. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. now the arranger says, Victor, I need another fill. I need not too much, but I want a little bit more. Maybe fill up the whole bar, the whole eighth bar. Okay, I'm gonna do that. But still, I'm gonna keep it simple. One, two, one, two, ready, go. And so on. Okay. Now, lastly, maybe I want to get a little show off some, not show off, but use more technique and make it a little bit more interesting. So in that case, I might let's see what comes out. I'm gonna play a little bit more this time. One, two, ready, go. More this time. But I started at the bottom. I started out with this. Then I did this. Then I did this. And finally I did this. Okay, so I didn't get too complicated too soon. So I took the band from A to B. It's like you're in Brooklyn and you're going to go to Manhattan. You're in the bus. You're the bus driver, and you have to know what to do. You have to know what what streets to turn, because otherwise you might end up in the Hudson River, and not make it to Manhattan. So that's one very typical field, or one typical place where you have to play a field to get to a hit. Another very common one is to have a hit on the end of two. That would be on the second bar of a two-bar phrase, or the fourth bar, the sixth bar, or the seventh, or the eighth bar, because we're thinking in two, three. One, two, three, four. One, two, three, four. Okay, so now I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna start very again simple. Uh, one, two, one, two, ready, go. One, I get no feel at all, but it feels comfortable because I'm thinking about the clave. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. So I'm right there with the clave. So it feels very good. But maybe I want to fill in that little gap between the one and the end of two. So I'm gonna do that now. And I'm gonna do that by simply playing two eighth notes on my high drum. One, two, one, two, ready, go. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, that type of feel is good because it keeps the feeling of the rhythm going on instead of just stopping then playing the hit. Uh, I could do a little bit more. Let me see what I come up with. I'm gonna go takum this time. Same tempo, a little bit slower. One, two, one, two, ready. One, now I'm gonna do another one more involved. That's actually gonna start on the seventh bar. Yeah, so those are simple little fills that you do to kick the band and keep the group together. Another thing that I find difficult for beginning readers and timbaleros is playing time in between the notes. Like for instance, manteca. We have the melody. Pa 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 da pa pa do pa 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 da pa pa da pa 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 da pa pa da pa 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 okay, they can do that, and I'll play for you that way. They can do that most of the time. That's okay, except that it sounds very bland, and if you're not very precise with the time, uh, it can actually sound off. And also, you're not by doing that, you're not telling the horns and the rest of the band where the time is because they're guessing. We're all humans, and if the drummer's not laying it down and directing them, if he's not taking the role of the bus driver, the time can go anywhere. So this is what I do, and what most people do. We fill in those little holes. Just like a jazz drum. So now I'm gonna do that. So in that way, I'm keeping the time in between, and there's as long as my time is good, there's no question to the others in the group as to where it is. Now, have you noticed I've been playing all those hits with the timbal here and the cymbal? I like to play a lot with the bass drum, especially for hitting the cymbal. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm gonna do most of my fills with my left hand. I'm gonna hit the band figures, the cymbal and the bass drum. So here we go again. One, two, one, two, okay. So those are some simple ways to set up the band and play figures in between the hits. Uh, I did mention that we're going to talk about building vocabulary, and again, it starts by listening, but some of it you can create or create yourself by using some of the things that you might know already. Like every drummer who studies snare drum, drum set, or anything like that has to learn the rudiments. The first thing that you learn is, doing full strokes, half strokes, low strokes. That's basically the single stroke roll, right, that you're doing. The next thing that they teach you is the roll family. In the roll family, we have the five stroke, we have the six stroke roll, the seven stroke roll, the nine stroke roll, the 10 stroke roll, the 11 stroke roll, the 13 stroke roll, the 15, and the 17. And once you learn it, they're actually pretty easy to execute. So I'm going to start by taking the five stroke roll. The five stroke roll is five notes, like let's say it's five strokes. So it's if I start with my right OB, right, right, left, left, right, five strokes. Right, it could also be with the other hand on the left, left, right. So I'm gonna play my five faster. So those are nice. Okay. If I just take that idea, that can be a film. So I'm gonna do that for a minute. Let's see. I'll play sometime, then I'll do some of those five stroke rolls. One, two, three, four, five, okay, so that's the five. What about if I take the six stroke roll? Now we have right, right, left, left, right, left. Okay, so now I got this. So I'm gonna try that. One, two, three, four, five, okay, that's a six. That's one way you can use it. Let's go to the seven. The seven is, you guessed it, seven beats, right? Left, left, right, right, left, left. I'm gonna start it on the rim shot. So that's still a seven, but it's sort of like inverted. One and the two and the three. So I'm gonna do that within the cascada. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. notice that I'm changing surfaces. I'm still doing a seven. It can sound like something totally new by doing the same thing. Just getting more mileage out of one lick. Uh, I'll do one more. I'll do the uh, I'll do the nine. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Now faster. And if I add one more, I end up with a 10. So let's try that. So that's one way to build vocabulary, just using some of the things that you learn in your studies with rudimental drumming, classical drumming, stuff like that. Uh, Another favorite rudiment that I like a lot is what's called the paradiddle. Paradiddle is, I'll do it here. Pa, ra, di, do, pa, ra, di, do. See faster? Okay, I'm gonna do it slow. I'm gonna play that. One, two, ready, go. One, two, three, four, five, okay, you can take that same paradiddle. Let's see, play it in triplets. It's the same stricken, but instead of going one and two and three, now you're going saka taka taka taka. One da da two. I have to do sorry. One da da two da da three da da four da da one da da two da da. Let me try it. One, okay, I actually did the double paradiddle. A favorite one of mine is the paradiddle diddle. Paradiddle diddle, paradiddle I do it this way. So I'll do that one. Okay, I added one extra note. Actually, was like a. It's still the paradiddle diddle. I'm just adding one note at the bottom. So those sound nice, and they're not difficult. Once you get your technique going, they're not difficult. They're easy to execute, and it makes your fills sound interesting, and even your solos interesting without too much effort. Really, uh, that's one way you can build vocabulary by building on the technical things that you learn in school or with your private lessons. Another thing is to think melodically. Uh, especially typical players like Tito, Puente had a lot of technique, but he a lot of technique, but he does typical things. Manual candle, classic. And they would take simple things like kata, kudum, kum, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me try that. That's easy to do. It's very melodic and effective. Another one that could be easily manual candle. I'll try that. Okay, and those are easy. Now let's see. We take something like quarter note triplets. Okay, it's basically kuka 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 kuku kuku. Okay, I'm gonna try. That could be. I'm thinking of this with this one. Kuka 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 kuka. I'll do it slow. One, two, okay, so those are typical licks. Some things that I teach from my book, The Art of Playing Timbales, and I'm gonna play it for you, page 80. I like to do these, especially with beginners, because it's teaching them how to riff in time, and it's teaching them vocabulary. I'm gonna play them for you first, and then I'll explain to you where I got them. This is page 80. You don't have to read music. Just listen to how melodic they all sound and how typical they sound. Now play them slow so that you can hear it. You might want to think about the clave though all the way through in your mind. One ka 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 ka. Okay. And let me see how much time I have. Okay. All right. Okay. There you go. I'm gonna play it slow. One, two, number two, three, four, come from? I'm gonna play the first one for you. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4. That came from a very famous timbal solo by Guillermo Barreto. I believe it was 1958 or so. Cachao Jam Sessions. I'm sure some of you have that album. If not, check it out. And he opens up with that, the Escala Cubana. The next one that I did, that's typical. Anybody, Manuel Cando, Chihuahua, Caco, Puente, everybody does that lick at some other time or other. This next one, I believe I got from Puente. I use that a lot. The next one, I believe, if I remember correctly, was I got it from Manuel Cando, but anybody might do this one. Okay. This one, I'm thinking, again, it could be anybody, but I'm thinking Milato. This next one, I'm thinking Manuel Cando. It's all upbeats. 1, 2, I'll do it slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Faster. 1, 2. Okay. And this one, 1. I'm thinking, what is this? 1. Okay. And before I end, I want to see if anybody has any questions, any comments. Chris, can you open it up for a minute? Can you unmute them? If you want to, I see some people, just jump in if you want to say something. Pascual, I can't hear you. If you know, I think you can unmute you.
Can you hear me now? Can you, Victor? Can you hear me?
Yes.
At the beginning of the session, when you were going around with the bells and stuff, you called the box La Cajita China? Or,
Cajita, I think
yeah, La Cajita China.
anybody know the correct name? Cajita China. Did I say it correctly?
Yeah, but why do they call it that?
Because I assume they came from China.
Oh, really? Okay.
One here. There used to be. I have some. It's like a little box,
With holes in it, right?
and it had little slits on the sides. Yeah,
Okay, I have one of those. All right.
I believe the correct name. Yeah.
Okay, Cajita China. All right. Okay.
I mean, they were. We used to use them all the way up until 1985. All of a sudden, like LP came out with the jam block, and I remember they were all blue. And
Yes.
I was playing up in the Catskills with Luke, and everybody, it was like they liked it because they looked different. But before that, we were all using la
Yeah.
China or yeah, I think that's the name. I have to look it up now. You may be thinking. But the only thing about the cajita China, they wear out. So these are very durable. Anything else?
Victor, I got a question. This is Martin here. Can you hear me? Hello, Victor.
Yes, I hear you.
Oh yeah, you were playing some rolls like a 5-stroke roll, 7-stroke roll, And are those generally 16th notes when you play those?
It depends on how you're applying them. Like I was playing them at 16s, like 1E and a 2 and 1E and a 2. And
I noticed that. Yeah.
I'm thinking quarters and eighths, or if I'm counting 1, 2, 4, 1E and a 2 and 4. But I could also do this. 1, 2, 4. Those are 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. If I do a cha cha cha, 1, 2, 3. I'll do it an eighth of 1, 2, 3. Now I'm gonna do them at 16 notes. 16. 3, 4, 3. I'm gonna double it again. 30 seconds. 3, 1, 2, 3. So it depends on how you apply it within that time.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Good question. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I have a question, Victor. When you're playing a solo, are you counting bars as you're playing the solo?
Good.
I try not to. I mean, if it's like let's say it's a 16 bars of solo, I have to keep my place. So I try and feel like in phrases.
Oh,
It would be like a C7 going to a B flat.
mhm.
That was a 4-bar phrase. So I'm not gonna count 1, 2, 3. I'll just feel it. One way is to sing the song itself. That's very popular in jazz. I'll do it to Manteca. I did 16 bars, but I wasn't counting. I was thinking about. I'm gonna do it again, but I'm gonna play the form of the tune.
Mhm.
I don't know how many bars, but I'm gonna sing it.
Okay, thank you.
So I played to the song, so I was singing the tune in my mind.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have a question. I guess when you're doing your rolls, like the different rolls, 5-stroke rolls, and et cetera, in your solos and on the riffs, do you all start with your preferred hand? I like to practice them both ways, but in a performance, do you always go with your strong hand to start them?
I'm right-handed. I tend to go anywhere. If I want to emphasize the downbeat, I'll start with my right hand. Like if I'm doing 6-stroke rows, I want to emphasize that downbeat. It's gonna fall on the rim shot. Okay? So I want to hear that. So naturally, I'm gonna invert that 6 with that rim shot. A better example would be my 7-stroke row. If I want to emphasize the downbeats, I started with the quarter or the 8. But if I want to start with my left, I'll put it, I could still put it on the downbeat, but my rim shot will be on one of the upbeats. Like, and if you can. So there I'm starting with my left. So now I'm going to do both. I'm going to start with my left, then I'm going to turn it around and start with my right. But it's still going to be a 7-stroke roll. 1, 2, the 6, starting with the left hand. There you go. I'm going to start with my right. So it depends the effect that I want, and if I can do it technically, I mean, I have to practice.
Great. Thank you.
What's your name again, sir?
Alan Johnson. Alan Johnson Torres.
Right. Just about time to go. The main thing about playing extended solos, I mean, we don't want to play great, and we want to play like Giovanni and everything. We want to play fast, we want to, but it's not always necessary. Not necessary. Play your your ability. Like you have a box and you're here, and uh, once in a while you can get out of that box. You always want to do something better, right? But if you listen to all the great players, most of the time it's that box. It's what they know and what they know. Like when I'm playing, I'm not gonna try and do something that I know is gonna sprain my hands and get me all tight, because once your muscles get tight and you start getting uh, anxious, that's it. It's not gonna go any. It's not gonna go anywhere. What I try to do, my concept of playing is to tell a story. Let's say I walk into a room. I'm not gonna start yelling. Hey, I'm here, Viktor. Right?
So even though it's just like like I mentioned, they like it's simply well, meaning the bill used to be like pretty much all the time. That's not fun. And for me, if I had this wondering.
So anyway, what I do is I try to introduce a solo and have like what's called a theme and variations. A theme is where you state something that you're gonna come back periodically. I'll demonstrate. I do one, two. That's gonna be my theme. Now, around that theme, I'm going to do other things. I'm gonna I'm gonna add other rows. That's gonna be my variation. Now we have theme and variation. So I have a central focus on this sound like I'm just rambling. So I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna do it to a track, and I'm gonna try and keep it again simple, but I'm gonna state my theme, and I'm gonna go into variations, come back to my theme, and then I'm going to say goodbye with my solo. I hope that made sense to you, and I hope you got something out of it. If you have any questions or comments, you can always DM me on Facebook. I would like to do that and listen as well. So if you need any requests, okay. And then have a good one. Till next time. Thank you for being here. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Victor. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Made it. The good